Hey everybody, Bob Lung here. I got James Knight, I got Ron Rigney. We're going to talk about some fantasy football consistency for the top tier quarterbacks. That's right, QB1As, and that is coming up next. Yeah, rock and roll, people. Love it. Love the new show. Love the new show. Yeah, we're not a new show. We've been doing this for years. But I love the new format, and I love the fact that we got a new guy with us, James Knight, joining us live from down in old Nashville, North Carolina. He told me that. I said that wrong. And of course, we always have Ron Rigney proudly wearing his Indiana Pacers hat, giving them some love as they deserved, scared the hell out of a lot of NBA team. So, Ron, James, welcome to the show, the Big Guy Consistency Show, podcast show. I don't know. We just talk about consistency. Everybody knows what we're here about. How you guys all doing, man?
Doing pretty good. I appreciate you guys having me tonight. Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, doing good. Balmy as always down here. I had to get back in my chair real quick. That new intro, I broke out a one-man mosh pit in here, ready to talk QBs. You mentioned my Pacers didn't end the way we wanted it to, but like I said, we've been celebrating with those Florida Panthers down here, those back-to-back. I've been rubbing elbows with some Stanley Cup champs, so it's been kind of cool.
Very nice.
Good deal. Love that. Love that. Like I said, we're back doing a show every Wednesday now through the preseason here. We're heading towards the Fantasy Football Expo, which you all should know about if you're watching this at all. But we will maybe talk a little bit about that later. But more importantly, where's my guy? I don't have my guide in front of me. Hold on. Oh, anyway, Fantasy Football Consistency Guide. You all know about it. Everybody knows about it. If you watch this show, I guarantee you know about it. But just in case you've never seen this show and you know nothing about consistency and its importance in fantasy football, this is where you need to be each week. We'll be here for you. But you also need to see that scroller going across where it says buy now. Go to Amazon.com where you get your books, your magazine, whatever you buy there. Probably buy everything like I do. Go there, type in the words Fantasy Football Consistency. I guarantee you, first thing will pop up will be the 2025 edition. Make sure you grab that because everything we talk about will be all in that book and on the Big Guy Fantasy Sport website. So, gentlemen, let's kick it off. We're going to talk quarterbacks. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a usual jump on the number one guy. I've done it a couple times in the past, almost always got burned by it. I've always been a holdback, not a long way. Like I'm kind of like a fifth round guy quarterback. So last year I had a ton of Joe Burrow, and I think Ron and you did too. But just before we get really into the data here, let's kind of go through that. So James, in most leagues over your years, where are you usually drafting your quarterback? In a standard PPR, 4 points passing touchdown, nothing fancy, just standard kind of thing. Where do you usually get your quarterbacks at?
Well, I'm kind of on the same boat you are. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be the first guy to jump in. I like to see a little bit happen in the draft before I do something. Following up on last year, a lot of people jump in on whoever had the best year. Mahomes blew up one year, people jumped onto him next year. Yeah. And very rarely does that work out. So I'm a lot like you. I like to see where somebody's going to be consistent, somebody that I can get after a little bit of a run has gone on quarterbacks, and they're going to be of value. Like you said, 5th, 6th, 7th round, I'm probably starting to feel antsy where I want a quarterback because I know if I miss that level right there, especially rushing upside, things like that, then I'm going to miss out on a quarterback I really want, and I feel good about that. But like you said, every time I've reached, hadn't been a lot, I feel like I get burned.
Yeah, I hear you. Ron, I think you're in the same boat too, but I will let you speak. Tell us about your thoughts where you're usually drafting a quarterback in your typical one quarterback league.
It's usually those lower tiers. I mean, I'm going to echo what James has said. The times that I'll be bold and I say, this is the year I'm getting Josh Allen. I don't care what you say. It doesn't work for me. I don't know why. It's just something about it. It's not him. It's me, I guess. And so I go to those lower tiers usually. The last couple of years, the most success I've had has been with those lesser guys, the Baker Mayfields of the world. 2 years ago, I was able to, in the Kings Classic, when I was able to pull it out that year, CJ Stroud was the guy that carried me down the stretch. He was a later round guy, and he kind of echoes what James said. Last year, a lot of people on that bandwagon, including me and Scott Fish. I didn't make the playoffs in Scott Fish, and I don't think that's a coincidence as to why I didn't make it. So again, I'm looking in those later tiers, guys. Again, I love me some Baker Mayfield this year. He might be a little more expensive, but I think you can get some nice value. I like me some Matt Stafford this year if he can stay healthy. I love that addition of Devontae Adams. If you've been over the site, I wrote about how I like that for Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua on the other side. So again, I feel like I've had and to speak to the Kings Classic too. Last year, made it to the finals, got absolutely obliterated by Chris Prince's team, led by Jayden Daniels, who was a later round guy. So if you need, I don't think you need much more data than that to see where I'm coming from.
No, I totally agree. But here we are. Tonight's show, we're going to focus on the QB1As. Now, a couple of them are outside or getting a little closer to that realm that we all feel comfortable. But let's talk about the top guys for those out there, and let's talk about their consistency. Let's talk about, do we feel comfortable that they can repeat or get better or whatever the case may be. So let's start with Mr. Number One. That is Lamar Jackson. Last year, number one in total points, number one in consistency. If you had him on your teams, probably was waltzing into the playoffs with him, unless the rest of your team really sucked. The year before that, he won the MVP, was 63% consistent. I wasn't going to draft him based on that. And then guess what? He goes out and becomes 88% consistent. Come on, Lamar. Was it because of Derrick Henry? Surely could have been. That certainly takes a lot of pressure when you're a running quarterback and you've got a stud running back in the backfield that people have to pay attention to. And in the past, Gus Edwards and Justice Hill weren't those players. So Derrick did a great job. He's back again. Same team, same offensive. I mean, there's just so many things that are very similar. Because of that, of course, his ADP is, of course, quarterback one, but he's around pick 25, 24 to 26. So late second, early third in a one quarterback league. I don't know if I can pull the trigger. I'm really not that guy. I'm probably going to pass, but either one of you want to talk me into keep picking him that early, or you guys are kind of in the same boat? What are your thoughts on Lamar Jackson heading into this year? Again, based on just that one quarterback league, are you gonna take that? Maybe the 2-3 turn, you get him as number 3. I mean, let's be honest. You could go just Jamar Chase or Saquon Barkley, and then come back with another either good running back, good receiver. Do you go Lamar Jackson third round? I mean, doesn't sound as bad when you say third round, even if it's pick 25. What are your thoughts? Ron, I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts on that? Where are you going with Lamar Jackson? How far does he have to fall before you're like, now it might make some sense?
Yeah, everything you said sounds great. And when you look at that season last year, 4,100 yards, 77.3 QB rating. I mean, that's the highest he's had in his entire career. Like you said, too, they finally got a viable guy behind him. It wasn't a hodgepodge of guys. And, you were a big Derrick Henry guy last year, and that paid off dividends everywhere you had him. And so you have to honor that, obviously. But what we've seen Lamar Jackson do that everybody said he was not going to do is he became a passer. Like, he is a legit quarterback. Like, he's not just some athlete that runs the ball. I mean, the guy's won the MVP a couple times. And I'm not even getting into what he does with his legs, but the 41 touchdowns, the 4 picks, the 4,000 yards, and then you get those RB1, high RB2 numbers. It's hard to argue it. It really is. And again, like James said, a lot of this hinges upon what everybody else wants to do. But, if you're going into a draft and you have a plan and you have to reach a little bit to get your guy, I think of these guys we're going to talk about in this top tier. I think he's the one that I probably would feel the most comfortable pulling that trigger on, because I think it's gonna pay off. Again, you always have to worry about the guys that run, getting out there, getting banged up a little bit. But I think that they do a pretty good job of managing his load. he's smart enough to know when to not take the hit, when to slide, and you always got to worry about that a little bit. And I think that might make me a little more leery than I would normally be. But I think of the guys up here, he's the guy you got to pull the trigger on.
Got it. All right, James. Which way you going? You going maybe, no, yes?
My entire mind tells me that Lamar Jackson breaks fantasy, right? It's what he does.
Yeah.
But hold on. We got to remember, when he breaks fantasy, it's because, like Ron just said, it's because he thrives as a passer. Lamar Jackson, in 6 full seasons as a starting quarterback, has 2 seasons where he's cracked 30 touchdowns passing. Only 2. Both times he was right there in the MVP. Both times. In fantasy MVP, real life. Mm-hmm. You're talking about in 2 of those 6 seasons, he threw 16 touchdowns and 17 touchdowns, and people who drafted him in the first, second, third rounds early got burned. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, the reason I know, I was a Lamar Jackson fan at one of those points. I had a fantasy championship already printed out when I drafted him at the draft in the late second round, and it just didn't happen. Now, his rushing upside, this is what scares me. 6 years in the league, or 7 years in the league, 6 really starting seasons now. Mm-hmm. What happens if his rushing slows down and it mixes with that passing? The same thing. That consistency falls off a cliff. Like you just said earlier, he went from low 60s consistency to 88. Yeah. Guess what? Go back to 2019, 6 years ago. He was in the 80s during that year too, consistency. He also threw 36 touchdowns. Touchdowns, as we all know, is not a sticky thing. It doesn't happen year to year. You got to get those 50, then he'll throw 27. And, with Lamar, if I'm getting him at 26, 27, 25, somewhere in that vicinity, I got to know he's throwing 30 touchdowns and running for close to 1,000 yards. Right. I can't guarantee that in my mind, so I'm out on him at that rate. But don't get me wrong, everybody's got a price.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. He starts dropping further in my draft. Somebody likes Allen better. Somebody likes somebody else better. I'll think about it. But at this point, it feels like you're paying ceiling prices for what could be a bad floor on a pick,
Mm-hmm. And let me toss in something too, real quick, that I didn't even get to mention. And when you look at that wide receiver room, you look at that depth chart they've got. I love me some Zay Flowers. Mm-hmm. There ain't much behind that. And Mark Andrews gets nicked up. Mark Andrews ain't the same Mark Andrews we've seen. Like we want Isaiah Likely to become a thing. He's not quite there yet. So I'd really love to see them surround him with some legit weapons. DeAndre Hopkins is not that. He might make a little difference, but he is not that guy. So the weapons around him really, for him to have that 4,000 yards with the guys that he was throwing to last year, again, that kind of is another testament to just how he's progressed as a passer.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too will be, again, how their defense does. If their defense is weak, then he's going to have to throw the ball more. It usually isn't, and I assume it'll be back into, a very solid state like it was last year. So we'll have to see. All right, so James, you talked about Josh Allen, so let's talk about Josh Allen. He's the number 2 ranked that I have ranked. Believe it or not, no, I take that back. His ADP is at number 2. There's been a flip every once in a while between him and Jayden Daniels. So right now, from the last time I updated this, he is still the QB 2. His ADP is literally one choice after Lamar Jackson. So it's one of those, one drop, the other one's going to drop. Nobody's going to wait. But not a banner year for him. He was 4th in total points. Usually he's first. So, a little bit of a drop off there. Consistency, 75%, which actually placed him 3rd. So he's a top 5 quarterback. I don't think anybody's arguing that. But I think this is one of the guys for sure that we look at and go, I can see taking Lamar that early, and you could justify based on the numbers. But Josh, it seems like, first off, he does not turn away from pain. He will run people over. He likes to run people over, and that's great until those nagging injuries, and it becomes December and things get a little edgy. He missed 2 games, he missed 1 game last year. X consistency was third, so it was good. But that one pick after Lamar, I mean, it's almost an easy out for me. I'm not going to pick Josh Allen at all at that spot. And I'm not even sure if he fell into the early fourth round, I would be jumping on him, because if he's falling into the fourth, that means the other guys are falling a couple ones back. So, James, we'll go to you. Your thoughts on Josh Allen? Are you completely in, completely out, or in between?
Very, very similar to you. The one thing that stands out to me between him and Lamar, like I said, Lamar puts up the rushing yards that Josh doesn't touch. But the one thing about Josh is every year he's guaranteed like 35 plus touchdowns at least, because his rushing touchdown total is huge every year. He's almost their goal line preferred guy.
Right.
And then he hasn't thrown for less than 27 touchdowns in 5 seasons now. Right. So like I said, that's a 10 touchdown differential. But I'm the same as you. Down the stretch, I don't want my fantasy quarterback playing hero ball and telling me he's banged up and he may not be able to keep going. Josh Allen tends to have less consistent games towards the end of the year because not only the weather in Buffalo, but then, like you said, he's kind of stockpiling minor injuries a little bit. Mm-hmm. And when you go into a season and you got Khalil Shakir as your number one receiver, you're hoping Dalton Kincaid comes out, and you're not going to find a better fan of James Cook than me. Huge James Cook guy, but he's in a contract thing going on. I mean, Josh can wear the cape as much as he wants to, but he's not going to be wearing it on my team.
Yeah, I got you. All right, yeah. Mr. Rigney.
It's a little bit of the same. Again, we all kind of said we're waiting on those quarterbacks a little bit, and it's not to say that I think I'm kind of splitting hairs here with Lamar and with Josh Allen, and the rushing upside is not as great with Josh Allen. But one of the things, and Lamar's gotten better at this too the last couple seasons, is Josh Allen is not missing games. You have Josh Allen on your team, might be a tough matchup, might be in the Buffalo snow, but he's going to be in that lineup, and he's going to be getting you something, and he's going to be getting those tough yards. And James kind of touched on what he's looking at as far as his weapons. And when I look at him next to his wide receiver room next to Lamar Jackson's, neither one of them are super impressive, but I think I like the weapons that Josh Allen has on the whole more than I like the Ravens' weapons. When you look down that depth chart, he's got a couple of capable tight ends that he likes to look for in the red zone in Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. Of course, you mentioned Khalil Shakir again. I don't think any of these guys are striking fear in defenses, but Josh Palmer, I think, is kind of a sneaky ad. He was a guy for the Chargers. If Mike Williams was hurt, he was stepping up there. Elijah Moore is there, Curtis. So not really a guy, a bunch of guys. And so I think that speaks. I think he can spread the ball around a little bit and get enough out of that he's going to be fantasy relevant way more than a lot of these weapons that he has.
And I think there's something to be said about that, and I think that's what you're touching on. The Bills clearly went out and got guys that mesh with him. The guys who are not going to drop balls, the guys who aren't divas, the guys who go out and catch the passes and get 8-10 yards at a time when he needs to. And if Josh is creating, you're talking about Shakir, you're talking about Keon Coleman, the rookie they brought, contested catch guy, Elijah Moore there, Josh Palmer. All these guys have this theme of we catch everything that's thrown in our direction, and when Josh is running around, that's what the Bills wanted, and that's what McDermott wanted. So they went out and got it.
Yep, totally agree. All right, so we're out on him. We love him, but we're out on him. All right, so the next guy up was my guy last year. Loved him to death. Got him in the 5th, 6th round. Joe Burrow, baby. And he even exceeded my expectations. Like he threw 45 touchdowns, went crazy. Consistency was 71%, but I feel like that was a lot to do with just, T. Higgins was like, I hate you. Now I want to play. I might be hurt this week. I may be hurt next week. I don't know. I'm trying to get a big contract. I mean, so I feel like even with the adversity that Joe had, Chase Brown did a great job in the backfield. So I feel like he could improve his consistency even if his total points don't go up, which is kind of hard to do since he was second. He played all 17 games. He's 100% healthy. That's very, very important. But his ADP, only 5 picks after Josh Allen. I don't know. I mean, again, I love I love Joe. I'm a huge fan of Joe's. I won him in the 5th round. I just don't think he's going to make it to me in the 5th round. So let's just assume he stays, even if he stays late 3rd. I don't know if I can do it, but if he's middle of the 4th, and I feel like I got a really good top 3 or 4 guys, and maybe I can get him in the 4th round or 5th round, I might take that chance. I feel like people still kind of ignore him because he doesn't run a lot, but we'll have to wait and see. So Ron, we'll go to you. I know you love Joe as much as I love Joe. We're big Joe fans. But talk about your thoughts on Joe Burrow. Where is a good spot for him to fall before you take him, or are you fine with taking him in the 3rd round?
I'm not, because he's not giving you that rushing upside like you said. So again, if I'm spending the money on that draft capital on those top quarterbacks, I got to get a little bit of rushing stats, and they're not there. And he's not that guy. We know he's not. He does have T. Higgins back. He does have Jamar Chase, who's one of the best receivers on the planet. We know those weapons that he's got. I'd love to see him have a little bit more at the tight end spot. But last year, a lot of encouraging things. Only 9 picks. Career high 70.6 completion percentage. So we saw him play all 17 games, because when you look at that season before that, coming off that injury, people were a little scared, and that's why we got that value on him. And he definitely didn't look like himself. Fast forward to last year, he's back to being the Joe Burrow that we know and love. But I don't think I'm kind of with you. That 4th round is where he starts to look a little bit more tasty. But I don't know if I'm in on him on those top 3 if I'm not getting those rushing stats.
Gotcha. James, what are your thoughts on Joe Burrow?
You look at his receiving group. You're talking about Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. We've been talking about for years. T. Higgins, the best number 2. Doing whatever.
Right.
I'm all in on Yoshivas. I think Yoshivas is probably good enough to be a number 2 somewhere else if he really went somewhere else. They got Gesicki at tight end. They're doing things.
Jermaine Burton, who really didn't play much last year.
Jermaine Burton is one of those enigma guys. He's like a Tyreek Hill or a Steve Smith or somebody kind of drops because of the outside of football things, right? Mm-hmm. If he hits, my goodness. And then one of the things that really, really screams to me that 4th, 5th round, I might be super tempted to take Joe Burrow. They didn't do anything to address the running back position, like at all, right? Like, I mean, Chase Brown is there, and Chase Brown did well. Yeah. But Chase Brown profiles as a good space, get out in space, do things. They drafted Taj Brooks, which I like Taj Brooks, but late. So they brought back Samaje Perine too, right?
Did they really?
Yeah. So they got Perine back there. So in other words, they're just embracing the culture of Joe Burrow is this generation's Dan Marino. We're going to run it enough to get 900 yards rushing, and we're going to let him throw the crap out of the ball. And the crazy part is Burrow has maybe some people might argue Mahomes or somewhere like that, but Burrow's got the best chance to throw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns this year. Yeah. So if he's hanging around there and he slips a few spots, I can't. And like Mahomes in his best years, he's got some sneaky rushing upside too. Yeah,
I mean, he can run if he needs to. Yeah. It's not like he's broken.
Not to mention all the stuff you can put on your team page and do all that stuff with Joe smoking cigars and enjoying stuff, and you're crushing people. And God forbid you got Jamar Chase in the 1st round and you stacked him, then there you go.
I had him. That happened a lot last year. That's
I was thinking that when you said that, I was like, I'll bet he was stacking them like crazy, and that was killer. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I did that a lot. And the one thing I want to touch on briefly before we move on that is extremely important to why Joe Burrow could hit 50 touchdowns is their defense sucks, and if they don't sign Hendrickson, they're giving up 50 points a game.
You're talking about the definition of a turnstile at this point, right? I mean, like they might as well just go ahead and give the team 7 points, kick the ball back to Joe, right? I mean,
I mean, was it the Steelers game that was like 45-42? The Steelers put up 42 points with their offense. The Steelers
only scored 37 points in the previous 3 games, scored 4. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah.
So that's the other reason why you go, well, maybe Joe won't get so tired. But no, he will. He's going to be exhausted. But like I said, he's going to have to throw the ball. So, all right. So let's go to our super rookie last year. Everybody loves this guy. I have him ranked 5th, which I'm sure everybody out there except me is probably just crying that I've got him so low at 5th. But he was 71% consistent, 5th in total points. Yes, he could be the second coming of, Jalen Hurts, or but he also could be the second coming of, Robert. Why did I went brain dead?
Robert Griffin III.
Thank
RG3.
you, RG3. We don't know because he runs. One bad hit took RG3 and his career's over. But I get it; it can happen to anybody. So I don't wish that on anyone. I've got him ranked. I guess I got him ranked 4th. His ADP is 4. I'm sorry, his ADP is 3 now. He's 1 pick after Burrow at 32. So again, middle, early 3rd round. There is a lot to like about this kid. They grabbed Deebo Samuel. They're putting weapons around him. They're improving the offensive line. There's so many things to like. I feel like, again, maybe 3rd, late 3rd, early 4th, possible if Burrow got taken in front of it. Then maybe Daniels. I will definitely take Daniels before Hurts. That I will guarantee, if that came to that. But I mean, I like him. I see every reason and I see every discussion. But again, if it's between him and Burrow, I just feel like I'm going to go with the guy I has done it more than 1 year. So, Ron, what are your thoughts on Mr. Jayden Daniels? He helped you quite a bit, so I know you like him.
Well, again, it's one of those things that I feel like if I draft him, you need to stay well away because it's not going to work out for you. I love the addition. I wrote about it last week over on the side of Deebo Samuel. I think that helps him out quite a bit. Let's not forget Cliff Kingsbury is calling the offense in Washington. Sure. And big reason, we saw Cliff Kingsbury as a head coach didn't go so well, but man, as an offensive coordinator, the dude can draw up an offense, and you utilize those strengths and utilize what Jayden Daniels can do in his athleticism. And I think Deebo only helps that. They'll get the contract stuff sorted out with our guy Terry Targets. I don't think he's going to get traded or get sent out of town. They've got a couple pieces here and there, but I think they've got enough depth around him. They've got Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler in the backfield. I think they've done enough with the offensive line that they know that they've known how to do it and put the pieces around him. But it's just one of those things that, again, it's a rookie. I know how Mr. Lung feels about rookies' inconsistency. There might be a whole article about it in the guide.
It might be
if you check that out. But there could be a little drop off. There also could be a great step forward. I'm with you. I want to see a guy that's got a little bit more proven track record. But man, he is very tempting at that spot because again, I think he does. Might see a few hiccups here and there in a year or two, but I think over the long haul, he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be up there with the Allens and up there with the Lamar Jacksons.
Absolutely. All right, James, are you in? Are you a Daniels future-esque fan, or was there a lot of hype? What are your thoughts?
I'm going to go ahead and admit facts. I'm a Broncos fan, so I believe Bo Nix was a better rookie anyway. So, but with that said, yes, with that said, I love Bo Nix. Jayden Daniels is an extreme talent, but I can't help but get this weird feeling that they're hiding him. Robinson is a 1-2 down back. They brought in Eckler as a dump-off specialist last year. They brought in Samuel, who's going to take carries and do stuff this year, who's not necessarily known. I mean, what has it been, 3 years since he's had 1,000 yards receiving?
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, it feels like they're hiding him a little bit. It kind of feels like a Cliff Kingsbury special. He did it with Kyler Murray a little bit early on. Murray blew up the first year with Kingsbury, and then it kept going downhill a little bit where they were hiding him. Jayden Daniels right now, and I may eat my words, he may turn into Lamar Jackson this year, run for MVP and do that. But if he does that, you're going to have to expect McLaurin to have a career year, Deebo Samuel to prove he's not washed, Austin Eckler to be a great receiving back out of the back, and then you're going to have Daniels run for 800 to 1,000 yards. That's hard for me to believe that all that's going to happen. Now, don't get me wrong. I know Washington has had years of futile efforts, and they're like, "Oh my God, we have a chance again, and we're working on this." RG3 gave them that, and then they got hurt and broke with that. So, for his running style, for the players around him, I think that's a good team. But again, I feel like we're starting to draft him towards his ceiling again, all based off that rookie year. And I'm going to wait on quarterback unless he drops too much. I'm going to wait.
Got it. Another thing too is, he was, like you said, he was fifth. Well, he's basically tied for fourth in consistency at 71 with Burrow.
Yeah.
But he was fifth in the X consistency, and he was actually 2 full fantasy points behind Burrow in fourth place, 3, almost 4 behind Allen in second place, and 5, no, sorry, more than that, 8 fantasy points below Lamar. So I think he has the potential, but we're just going to have to wait and see. All right, so last guy. I can't tell you how far out I'm in on Jalen Hurts. I haven't been a fan. I thought for sure he would really drop drastically because of Barkley, because I figured they wouldn't do the tush push, but by God, they did it 15 times. And Barkley still was a god. So, last year he got hurt a couple of times. They've won their Super Bowl. I don't know why, but you have those gut feels, and I know you guys talked a little bit about it, but I just feel like the Eagles could fall apart. Not badly, like they'll still make the playoffs, but they everything clicked for them last year. Hurts played well, did what he had to do to win, but Barkley carried them. So if Hurts doesn't have to be the hero, which obviously worked out well, then he's not going to be a hero for our fantasy teams. And 67% consistency, that's below 70, and 70 usually has to be the guy that's going to be in the top. Now, I have him in the QB1A only because he certainly has earned 70% consistency or more in the past. He certainly has the potential to do it again, but if Barkley keeps running well and they keep winning games and he doesn't have to be the hero, I just don't see him being a valuable fantasy quarterback as much as I could see some of the guys like Bo Nix and Baker Mayfield and Purdy and some of those guys who are 5 rounds later. So Hurts will never be in I don't care how far he falls. I'm just not going to, I don't want to deal with him. I don't want to deal with his injuries. I don't want to deal with just his inconsistency. And I'm just not a big fan of where he's at. And I'm totally out on it. So James, what about you?
It's tough because of all the guys we talked about, the one guy in this entire top group who is surrounded top to bottom from talent is Jalen Hurts.
Right.
Like you talking about go out and build around a guy, and then they go and get a division rival running back who's one of the best in the league, and he just shows out. And like you said, I was thinking the same thing. There's no way Hurts gets that many rushing touchdowns last year. And they were like, Barkley, step aside. Let Jalen Hurts get these. And it just kept happening. But I'm also on the same boat as you. I'm old enough, and I remember the whole thing that was happening during the Dream Team Philadelphia Eagles with Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson. They brought on a ton of talent. It was all kinds of talent, and they just fell on their face. I also remember, 2021, the Eagles did the same thing. They came out, won some games, did some stuff, and then just started losing. Locker room went crazy. That's one of the things about that whole team is there's a lot of diva talent there, a lot of smart players, a lot of guys who want their numbers.
Yeah.
Winning cures all. Winning cures all. Let the Eagles lose 3 games in a row. I mean, I feel like it was just last season early on. They were like, Sirianni's on the hot seat. And all of a sudden he wins the Super Bowl and he's rolling out again.
Yeah, right.
And then I look at the quarterback and I'm like, so he throws for 188 yards a game and 0.7 touchdowns per game, rushes for 33 yards, but that 1.7 touchdowns per game is propping him up rushing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's got to stop at some point, right?
Yeah.
So
it's got to cool off. Yeah.
Like you said, for that reason, any league I've ever been in, there's at least one Eagles fan who is going to reach well before me, grab Jalen Hurts. And I'm like, thank you for taking him off the board because I would have been scared if he lasted another round or two. So, yeah.
Right. I gotcha. All right, Ron?
A couple things that stand out.
Does he push your tush? That's all I want to know. Does Does Jalen Hurts push your tush?
I don't know how to answer that, to be honest with you. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no.
All right. Well,
yeah.
I think that's the right answer, Ron. I think that's
not
the right
that there's
answer.
anything
I
wrong
would
with
have said
that.
no.
Not there's anything wrong with it.
Exactly. So, couple things here. Number one, 18 touchdowns passing, 14 rushing touchdowns last season, 1 300-yard game. James just mentioned all that talent. Again, I know he's got Saquon Barkley behind him, and that's going to take some of the load off his shoulders. I get it. But if I'm taking a guy at ADP 38, I got to get more than 1 300-yard game. I mean, he's got some of these passing totals: 108 yards, 118 yards, 202 yards, 114. I got to get more than that. Okay, so I'm not gonna. I got him on one of my dynasties because I kind of was able to pull a trade and kind of fleece a guy early on, and so he's my QB too. I'll keep him right there next to Joe Burrow, and those are my top two guys. But I'm not drafting him because here's the thing about this league. Teams have been trying to, we saw the Packers do it again. We want to get rid of the tush push. It's not a legal play. What happens when somebody figures it out? Is somebody going to figure it out and they shut it down? And all of a sudden you go from 14 rushing touchdowns to 1 or 2? These guys in this league are smart. Now, will they do it? I don't know. It remains to be seen. But when, like James said it perfectly. He said exactly what I was going to say. When you look at that top 10 finish in total points, it is propped way the hell in the air by those rushing touchdowns. And again, I want my quarterback to have more than four passing touchdowns in his total as far as his rushing touchdowns. So at ADP 38, of all these guys, he's probably, I'm with you, he's the one I'm staying the furthest away from. And it could go the other way. He could post some 300-yard games. We could see him, getting the ball out to Devontae Smith and AJ Brown and those guys, and good for them. But it's not something I want to mess with because, again, I feel way more confident in those guys in that next couple of rounds for sure.
Yeah, the next tier. Yeah,
I
think we're definitely that. I tell you what, if Troy Polamalu was in this league, I guarantee you that tush push would be stopped like that. Because
you read my mind, Bob.
That his ass would have jumped over that line and hit him in the helmet midair. There may have been some concussions, but I guarantee you they would have been taken right off the map instantly at that point. I can't believe that nobody has thought of that. Like when they dive down, just have somebody come over and get in between him and the center's ass. I guarantee he ain't going anywhere.
You put him in that division with the Palomalos, the Ed Reeds, and those guys like that back in the. Oh my God! God. No.
Jack Tatum would have ended that tush push in one play.
You better give the ball to your running back unless you want your quarterback to get stretchered off. I mean,
exactly.
And that's something else that we didn't touch on there. Hurts is getting older too. Quarterbacks get hurt in that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong; he's squatting planets and stuff. I get it. He's amazing. But at the same time, when he runs one of those and he gets hurt, the wheels are going to fall off that bus.
Yeah. I'd say it's only going to take one time. Somebody's, whether somebody, spears him or they hit him head on or whatever, and then it becomes a concussion issue, game over.
People talk about the Joe Theismann thing. Mm-hmm. I can still, to this day, see the Robert Griffin III going out of bounds and got hit in his leg. And that you know what I mean? Don't even want to talk about it, but I can see it in my head. And, and you're talking about this is a play that most teams are like, I can't run my quarterback that way. They're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's sacrificing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you. Great discussion. Folks out there, if you heard all this, maybe you're going to still choose one, but you got our stats, you got our numbers. We're here to help you out. Next week, we focus on the QB1Bs, probably where we're going to draft a few more of our quarterbacks this coming year, but we'll get to that next week. So, Ron, will you be sharing a card with us?
Why, yes, I will. And you're going to like this one. You're going to like this one because I've suddenly jumped back into this hobby, developed a new passion for it, and so I'm back in. So I got some new stuff to add on. Ooh. So we're going to go with this little Quinshon Judkins little red pretty prism here in the Ole Miss uniform before he transferred to Ohio State. A guy that headed to Cleveland. I think he's going to make some noise in Cleveland because they kind of have to. They kind of get that out of him. Yeah. So yeah, I always have one or two to share with you.
I kind of figure, new year, new things, new ads. I had to check. So thank you for that, Ron. Tell everybody where they can find you. All kinds of great, articles up, but tell them where they can find you on Twitter and on Big Guy.
Yeah, Ron Rigney on the X, on the Twitter, whatever you want to call it nowadays. Over to BigGuyFantasySports.com. I'm hitting you up every week, Thursday, Friday-ish. I'm looking at guys that have changed teams. Are they going to be consistent? Are they not? Who are they helping? Who are they hurting? Come over there and find out. Did Deebo Samuel last week? Did Aaron Rodgers? Did Devontae Adams, mention him earlier? Still kind of toying around with who I'm going to do this week, but I think I got it narrowed down to who that's going to be. So come check that out for sure. Once the season gets rolling, of course, our guy Colby R. Conway and myself will be throwing up the Consistently Cash. We got a little ways for that right now, but we'll have that up there. But tons of great stuff coming out over at BigGuyFantasySports.com, so go check it out.
James, you are cranking out articles like they're just like you're printing paper. Tell everybody where they can find you and all the great stuff you've been doing at Big Guy Fantasy Sports as well.
All right, yeah, I appreciate that. Anybody wants to shoot me a follow, do whatever on X, you can find me at JKeezy. And then I've been doing a weekly article this summer throughout the thing on ADPs and how they're falling and rising and who's moving around. Got a couple of articles moving around through the week. And like I said, I appreciate you guys, Bob, Ron. I appreciate y'all having me on tonight. This was a blast, and I enjoyed it tremendously.
Well, you're always welcome. We'll be here every Wednesday night for at least preseason. We'll readjust and have some new stuff during the season. But thanks for all your insight. Thanks for all your great articles. Ron, as always, thank you for being a part of this. So, of course, I'm Bob Lung. You can follow me at Bob_Lung. All kinds of stuff going out, all kinds of consistency profile articles. So new this year, check those out. I take those profiles you get in the consistency guide and really break them open, really dive down into them so that it gives you a little more insight. Just did Najee Harris. Keep that guy in mind. He's not dead, believe it or not. Marion Hampton all you want, but he's not dead. So for Ron, for James, I'm Bob Lung, Big Guy Fantasy Sports. Thank you. Take care. God bless. We'll see you soon.